The mansion stood on the edge of the city, its walls shining with glass and steel. It was not just a house, it was a palace filled with robots, glowing lights, and endless rooms. Outside the gates, the world admired the wealth of the billionaire. But inside, the heart of the mansion was silent and heavy. 3 children lived there, hidden away from the noise of the world. They had every toy a child could dream of: cars that floated, dolls that talked, and games made with holograms. But no toy could make them smile for long. Because every night, when the lights dimmed and the city outside grew quiet, they cried. The oldest child, a boy named Adrian, tried to be strong. He told his younger brother and little sister that they should not cry. But when the night grew deeper, even Adrian's eyes filled with tears. The silence of the mansion was too big, too empty, too cold. Their parents were never there. The billionaire father was always chasing deals, building ships, and making more power. Their mother was lost in endless events, dinners, and meetings. The children lived surrounded by people, but they were truly alone. The mansion's staff moved like shadows. Robots cleaned the halls, guards walked outside, and human workers came and left without ever speaking to the kids. They were kept safe, they were kept rich, but they were never kept warm. Every corner of the mansion reminded them of what they did not have: love. At night, the cries of the children echoed in the wide halls. Adrian's brother, Leo, would cling to his blanket and whisper, "I miss Mama." His sister, Ilara, would hide under her bed, thinking monsters would come because no one was there to protect her. Adrian would try to comfort them, but inside his heart, he felt the same pain. The mansion had windows that touched the sky. From those windows, the children could see the stars. Sometimes they pressed their faces against the glass, wishing someone up there could hear them. The stars twinkled, far and silent, but gave no answer. The staff reported the crying to their father, but the billionaire only said, "Hire someone to take care of it." He thought money could fix every problem. He did not see the emptiness in his children's eyes. And so, the nights continued. The toys gathered dust. The laughter never came. The children grew more restless, more lonely, and more afraid of the silence. The mansion, though beautiful, became a cage of sadness. But then, one night, something changed. Adrian, Leo, and Ilara sat in their wide, golden room, their eyes red from crying. The house was quiet except for the sound of their tears. Suddenly, the walls hummed softly, as if the mansion itself was breathing. The door opened without a sound, and in walked a figure unlike anyone they had ever seen. She was tall, her skin glowing faintly like silver under moonlight. Her eyes were deep and full of starlight, and her steps made no sound at all. The children froze, their tears forgotten. They stared at her, fear mixing with wonder. She did not look like the other staff. She did not move like a robot. She was different. She was alive in a way that filled the room with warmth. The figure bent down and spoke in a soft voice. "Do not cry, little ones," she whispered, her words flowing like music. Her voice was gentle but strong, like the wind that carries whispers through the night. For the first time, the children felt something new, calm. Adrian blinked and asked, "Who are you?" The woman smiled, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "I am here to watch over you," she said. "I am your nanny." But there was something in her tone, something that told them she was more than just a nanny. Ilara crawled from under her bed and whispered, "You're not like us." The woman tilted her head, her smile never fading. "No, little star, I am not like you," she said. "I come from far beyond those skies." Her finger pointed to the window, to the endless stars outside. The children gasped, their fear melting into wonder. Leo asked, "You came from the stars?" She nodded, her long hair shining like threads of light. "Yes, and I will sing you the songs of the stars," she said. And with that, she began to hum. The sound was unlike any song they had heard. It was soft, yet it filled every corner of the mansion. The walls glowed faintly, the air felt warm, and the children felt safe. Their tears dried as their eyes grew heavy. The song wrapped around them like a blanket of light. Adrian, Leo, and Alara drifted into dreams. And for the first time in years, the mansion was not filled with cries, but with peace. That night, the lonely mansion was no longer empty. It was the beginning of something new. The children had found someone who could give them what all the money in the world could not. They had found their alien nanny, the one who whispered songs of the stars. Morning sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of the mansion. Adrian woke first, rubbing his eyes and remembering the strange woman who had entered the night before. For a moment, he wondered if it had only been a dream. But when he turned, he saw her standing by the window, watching the sky with quiet grace. Her presence made the room feel alive. The golden curtains moved with the wind, and the air itself seemed lighter around her. She turned to Adrian with a calm smile, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Good morning, young one," she said, her voice soft as a melody. Leo sat up next, still clutching his blanket. His fear from last night was gone, replaced by wide-eyed wonder. Alara, the youngest, peeked from behind her pillow, her little voice trembling. "You're still here," she whispered, half in relief and half in awe. The woman nodded gently. "I will be here as long as you need me," she said. "I am your guide, your protector, and your friend." Her words carried more than comfort. They carried weight, as if every promise was woven with truth. Adrian, curious and brave, asked, "But where did you come from?" The woman walked closer, her steps silent, her presence warm. "I came from far away," she said, "from a place where the stars are not far dots in the sky, but rivers of light, where voices travel across the galaxy like songs, and where children never cry alone." The children stared in silence, their young minds painting pictures of her world. Alara whispered, "You really sing the songs of the stars." The nanny bent down, brushing Alara's hair back gently. "Yes, little one, and you will hear many more of them," she said. Breakfast was served by robots, plates filled with golden bread, fruit cubes, and drinks glowing with colors. Usually, the children ate in silence, but today felt different. They looked to the nanny often, waiting for her to speak. She did not eat, yet she stayed with them, humming softly under her breath. Her humming changed the room. The walls no longer felt cold. The silver floor no longer felt empty. Even the robots paused for a moment, their metal frames humming back as if the sound touched their circuits. Leo laughed for the first time in months, spilling his drink but not caring. The nanny's name was soon revealed. "I am Alara," she said simply, her voice gentle. "It means light of song in my language." The name felt right, like it belonged to her. The children repeated it softly, "Alara, Alara," until it became a comfort. Adrian, still sharp and watchful, noticed something strange. Whenever Alara sang, or even hummed, faint glowing marks appeared along the walls. They shimmered like hidden letters, shapes too complex to understand. He wanted to ask about them, but something told him to wait. Later that day, the mansion's silence returned. The guards marched, the staff worked, and the children felt the weight of loneliness begin to creep back. But Alara was always there. She told them stories, not of Earth, but of faraway worlds. She spoke of moons that sang like bells when the wind touched them, of oceans made of silver where ships sailed not on water, but on light, of creatures who glowed like suns, but were gentle as birds. Every story she told pulled the children deeper into her world. At night, when shadows returned, the fear that usually gripped their hearts did not come. Alara sat by their beds, her voice wrapping around them like a blanket. Her songs were soft, but full of power. The children's tears never came, replaced by dreams of glowing skies. But Adrian, lying awake, could not stop thinking. Why would an alien come here just to be their nanny? Why would someone so powerful spend her time singing to 3 lonely kids? Questions burned inside him, but Alara's voice lulled him back to peace. Days passed, and the mansion changed. The halls echoed, not with cries, but with laughter. The children ran through the rooms, chasing each other while Solara's soft songs followed them. For the first time, the mansion felt alive. Yet outside the gates, the world whispered. The billionaire had hired someone unusual, someone unknown. Strangers watched the mansion from the shadows, wondering who this glowing woman was. Some were curious, others afraid, and some wanted the power she carried. But inside, the children did not know of these dangers yet. They only knew that for the first time, they were not alone. Solara's presence was like a shield, invisible but strong. Her voice turned sorrow into joy, fear into peace. And in the quiet of the night, when the stars shone above, Solara stood by the window, her eyes fixed on the heavens. She whispered words in a language the children did not understand. Her glowing hands traced symbols in the air, symbols that flickered and faded. She was not only a nanny, she was something more, something hidden, something waiting, and though the children did not yet know it, her songs were not just lullabies, they were mass. Night returned to the mansion, the sky outside filled with stars that sparkled like scattered diamonds. The children gathered in their beds, waiting for Solara, their new nanny. They no longer cried when the lights dimmed, because they knew she would come. Her songs had already become the most important part of their lives. Solara entered quietly, her silver skin glowing faintly under the soft lights. She sat on the edge of Adrian's bed, her hands folded gracefully. Leo and Ilara clung to their blankets, their eyes wide with expectation. Adrian, though older, leaned forward too, his heart beating faster. "Are you ready for tonight's song?" Solara asked, her voice smooth as flowing water. The children nodded quickly, their faces shining with hope. Solara smiled, and then she began. Her voice rose slowly, soft at first, then stronger, filling every corner of the mansion. It was unlike any song humans had ever known. The melody shifted like waves of light, sometimes gentle, sometimes powerful. Each note carried a strange energy, making the walls hum and glow with faint cymbals. The children felt the sound not only in their ears, but in their hearts. Ilara closed her eyes and saw visions. She saw endless skies filled with ships shaped like wings of fire. She saw planets glowing with colors that Earth had never known. Her small hands clutched the blanket tighter, but her lips curved into a smile. Leo whispered, "I can see it too." His eyes were wide, and he described oceans of silver, where great beings swam like living stars. He felt weightless, as if he were flying beyond the earth. Solara's song carried him farther than dreams ever could. Adrian, however, was not only dreaming. He was listening, carefully, trying to understand the words hidden inside the song. The language was strange, full of tones and echoes. Yet he felt as if meaning was pressing against his mind, waiting for him to unlock it. The song grew deeper, the mansion's air vibrating gently. Even the robots that worked in the halls stopped for a moment, their lights flickering. Guards outside looked up, hearing faint music carried through the walls. But only the children could truly feel its magic. Solara's eyes shone as she sang. She looked at the children not just with care, but with pride. Her voice carried stories, not told in words, but in emotions. They felt battles fought long ago, journeys through the void, and the warmth of families under alien skies. Ilara reached out her hand, as if trying to touch the stars themselves. Leo laughed softly, the fear that once haunted his nights now gone. Adrian sat very still, the glow on the walls catching his attention again. Strange markings shimmered, dancing with the rhythm of her voice. "What are those?" Adrian whispered when the song faded. Solara turned, her glowing eyes meeting his. "They are memories," she said softly. "Songs hold more than sound. They hold history. They hold truth." Adrian frowned, sensing she was not telling the whole secret. The children begged for another song. Solara nodded and began again, this time a softer melody. Her voice flowed like gentle wind, carrying them to sleep. Slowly their eyes closed, their breathing steady, their dreams filled with starlight. But Celera did not stop when they slept. Her voice lowered into a hum, weaving symbols across the walls. The glowing shapes pulsed, as if alive. She whispered in her alien tongue, words no human could understand. Her eyes lifted to the window where the stars shone brighter than ever. It was as if she were speaking to them, sending her voice beyond Earth. Her song carried messages hidden inside the melody. Messages that traveled farther than sound should ever go. Adrian, half awake, heard fragments. He caught words like prepare and chosen, though he did not know how. He opened his eyes slightly, watching Celera's glowing hands moving through the air. He wanted to ask, but sleep pulled him back under. Morning came with golden light spilling into the room. The children woke refreshed, their faces peaceful. For the first time in their lives, they had slept through the night without fear. They spoke excitedly about the visions they had seen. Leo laughed and said, "I flew among stars." Alara clapped her hands. "I saw silver oceans." Adrian stayed quiet, but inside he carried questions. He knew there was more to Celera's songs than simple comfort. Celera smiled at their joy. "You see the worlds I sing about," she said gently. "You are meant to dream bigger than this mansion, bigger than this earth." Her words planted seeds in their young hearts, dreams that would soon grow into something greater than any of them imagined. Outside the mansion, the world remained curious and restless. Rumors spread of a strange new caretaker, of children no longer crying. Some whispered that the songs themselves were unnatural. But inside, the children only felt peace. They did not know that every note carried power. The mansion had grown brighter since Celera arrived. The children no longer feared the night, and their laughter echoed in the wide halls. But in the middle of this happiness, Adrian began to notice things that made his heart restless. Celera was more than a nanny, and her songs were more than lullabies. Every evening, when her voice filled the mansion, strange glowing symbols would appear on the walls. They would flicker and move like living fire, pulsing with the rhythm of her voice. At first Adrian thought he was dreaming, but soon he realized they were real. No one else seemed to notice them except him. One night, when Leo and Alara had already fallen asleep, Adrian stayed awake. He kept his eyes open, pretending to be asleep while Celera sang. The marks began to glow, brighter than before, spreading across the walls and ceiling. They looked like a map, or maybe a message written in the language of the stars. Adrian's chest tightened as he whispered softly, "What are you doing, Celera?" Celera stopped singing, her glowing eyes turning toward him. For a moment, the room was silent, filled only with the hum of the cymbals. Then she smiled faintly, her voice calm but serious. "You are brave, Adrian," she said gently. "You notice what others do not." Adrian sat up, his small hands clenched in the blanket. "Where are those marks? Why do they appear when you sing?" he asked. Celera walked closer, her silver glow wrapping around her like a cloak. "They are memories," she answered. "Songs carry more than comfort. They carry knowledge. They carry power." Adrian frowned, his young mind trying to understand. "Why us? Why sing them here?" he pressed. Celera looked at the stars through the tall window before speaking again. "Because you are not ordinary children," she whispered. "Your voices, your hearts, are keys that can unlock what has been lost for centuries." Adrian's eyes widened, confusion mixing with fear. He wanted to ask more, but Celera placed a finger gently to her lips. "Not yet," she said. "The time will come, and you will understand." The symbols on the walls dimmed slowly as her song ended. But Adrian could not sleep, his thoughts filled with questions. He wondered if Leo and Alara would ever understand. He wondered if their father even knew the truth about Celera. The next morning, Adrian tried to speak to his siblings. But Leo only laughed, excited about the dreams he had. "I flew again, Adrian, across planets of gold," he said. Alara clapped her hands, telling how she saw glowing flowers taller than mountains. Adrian forced a smile, but inside he felt heavy. He wanted to protect them, yet he feared they were being drawn into something bigger. He began to watch Celera more closely. Every gesture, every song, every glance she gave to the stars at night. One afternoon, while the younger two were playing, Adrian followed Celera through the mansion. She moved gracefully, her steps leaving faint trails of light on the silver floor. She entered a quiet library, one of the many unused rooms of the house. Adrian peeked through the half-open door, his breath caught in his chest. Celera stood in the center, her hands raised. Symbols appeared again, glowing in the air like threads of fire. They spun and formed shapes, strange maps and patterns Adrian could not understand. Her voice whispered softly in her alien tongue, carrying secrets no human could know. Adrian gasped too loudly, and Celera turned, her silver eyes meeting his. For a long moment she stared, then she smiled. "You are curious, and that is good," she said, her voice neither angry nor kind, just steady. "But curiosity carries weight, Adrian, and weight carries destiny." Adrian stepped into the room, his small fists clenched. "Why are you here? Are you really our nanny? Or are you something else?" he demanded. Celera lowered her hands, the glowing marks fading into the air. She knelt before him, her face calm but serious. "I am both," she said softly. "I came to care for you, but I also came to prepare you." "Prepare us for what?" Adrian asked, his voice shaking. Celera's gaze turned toward the sky visible through the glass ceiling. "For a choice that will change not only your lives, but the path of your world," she answered. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to ask more, but Celera touched his shoulder gently. "You are not ready to hear everything," she whispered. "For now, trust me, as your brother and sister do." Her words carried warmth, yet they also carried a shadow of warning. That night, Adrian could not rest. Celera sang again, and his siblings drifted peacefully into dreams. But Adrian's eyes remained open, staring at the glowing symbols on the walls. He did not cry like before, but his heart was full of questions that would not go away. Outside the mansion, shadows moved. Unseen eyes watched from beyond the gates, curious and hungry for the power Celera carried. Rumors had already spread that the Billionaire. The mansion stood like a fortress of glass and steel, shining brightly against the night sky. Inside, the children laughed more than ever, their cries forgotten since Celera had arrived. But outside the tall walls, shadows gathered, whispers spreading among those who watched. The world had begun to notice the change inside the Billionaire's home. Guards patrolled the gates, their boots heavy against the ground. They thought they were protecting riches, gold, and power. But what they truly guarded was far greater, an alien woman with secrets older than Earth itself. And there were many who wanted those secrets. News had leaked into the city, stories of glowing songs and children who no longer cried. Some dismissed it as lies, others believed it with fear. Among them were men and women who worked for powerful rivals of the Billionaire. They wanted to know what Celera was and how her power could be stolen. One night, Adrian stood at the window, gazing at the stars. He noticed strange movements beyond the gates, shadows shifting where none should be. His heart quickened, and he turned to Celera, who stood silently near the door. "Someone's out there," he whispered. Celera's silver eyes narrowed. "Yes," she said softly. "I have felt them for days." Her voice carried no fear, only certainty. The world beyond these walls grows curious, and curiosity can turn to danger. The children pressed close to her, fear rising in their small hearts. Leo asked in a trembling voice, "Will they hurt us?" Celera knelt, her hands glowing faintly as she touched their shoulders. "No harm will come to you while I am here," she promised. But her promise was soon tested. That same night, intruders slipped past the guards, silent as shadows. They carried weapons, their faces hidden behind black masks. They moved quickly through the gardens, aiming for the children's rooms. Inside, Celera sensed them before any alarm was raised. Her body stiffened, her voice low. "Stay close to me," she whispered to the children. Adrian, Leo, and Ilera clung to her as the lights flickered. The mansion's security systems rang out, but the intruders were already inside. The door burst open, men rushing in with weapons raised. The children screamed, but Celera stood firm, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. One of the men shouted, "Give us the alien!" But Celera did not move. Her voice rose instead. She began to sing, not the soft lullabies the children knew. This song was fierce, powerful, like a storm breaking across the skies. The air shook with her voice, and glowing symbols spread across the walls. The intruders froze, their weapons trembling in their hands. The song wrapped around them like invisible chains. Their bodies stiffened, their eyes wide with terror. The weapons fell to the ground with loud clatters. One by one, the men dropped, unable to fight the force of her melody. Adrian stared in awe, his chest pounding. He had always known her songs carried power, but now he saw the truth. Celera's voice was not only a gift, it was a weapon, a force strong enough to protect them from anything. Leo and Ilera clung to her robes, their fear turning into wonder. The room glowed with light, as if the stars themselves had entered the mansion. Celera's voice finally softened, the symbols fading slowly. The intruders lay unconscious on the floor, defeated without a single touch. Guards rushed in too late, their eyes wide at the sight before them. They dragged the intruders away, but their whispers filled the halls. No one could deny it now. The nanny was not human. Her power was real, and it was beyond anything they understood. Later that night, when silence returned, Adrian could not rest. He looked at Celera, who sat by the window, her face calm but distant. "You could have destroyed them," Adrian whispered. Celera turned, her silver eyes soft. "Yes, but destruction is not my way," she answered. Adrian swallowed hard. "Why are they coming for you? Why are they after us?" he asked. Celera's gaze lifted toward the stars, her voice quiet but heavy with meaning. "Because the universe is watching, Adrian, and there are those who fear what you may become." Adrian's heart pounded at her words. He wanted to ask more, but Celera only placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do not be afraid," she whispered. "The songs are not only for peace, they are also for protection." Her voice carried warmth again, but the weight of her secret grew heavier. Outside, more shadows waited. News of the failed attacks spread quickly. Rivals, governments, and strangers from beyond Earth began to focus their eyes on the mansion. The children had no idea how many enemies their songs were attracting, but inside they clung to Celera. Her presence was their shield, her voice their comfort. They no longer cried at night, but the world around them was beginning to roar. And Adrian knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning of the danger waiting outside. The mansion was quiet again after the attack, but the silence was no longer peaceful. Guards doubled their patrols, cameras watched every corner, and the children were told to stay inside. Yet, even with all this security, Adrian, Leo, and Ilera felt that only Celera's presence truly kept them safe. Her songs had protected them before, and they trusted her more than anyone else. But something inside the children had begun to change. They no longer felt like helpless little ones waiting to be rescued. Every time Celera sang, they felt stronger, braver, and more aware of the world around them. The songs were not just soothing melodies, there were lessons hidden in sound. One morning, Leo noticed that when Celera hummed, he could finish her tune before she did. The notes came naturally to his lips, as if he already knew them. His small voice carried a glow of its own, soft but real. Celera smiled gently. "Yes, little one, the song is inside you now," she said. Ilera, though the youngest, began to see lights no one else could see. At night, when Celera sang, Ilera pointed at the glowing symbols on the walls. She traced them with her tiny fingers, copying their shapes into the air. When she did, The symbols grew brighter, answering her touch. Adrian felt the deepest change of all. His mind sharpened, his thoughts clearer than ever. The strange language in Solara's songs began to make sense to him. He heard meanings in the notes, fragments of words, warnings, and promises. One evening, after dinner, Adrian sat with Solara in the library. "Your songs are teaching us," he said firmly. "They're making us different." Solara looked at him, her silver eyes filled with pride. "You are awakening," she whispered. "This is what was meant to happen." Adrian frowned. Awakening for what? To fight? To lead? What are we becoming? Solara touched his hand gently, her voice steady. "You are becoming more than you were. Children of Earth, but heirs to the stars," she said. Her words filled Adrian with both hope and fear. Leo soon discovered that he could calm the robots in the mansion with his humming. Machines that once moved with cold precision now seemed to respond to his voice. He sang a short note, and the robots paused as if listening. Adrian and Alara watched in shock, realizing Solara's gift was growing inside them too. Alara's visions became stronger each night. She described planets with rings of fire and creatures made of pure light. Sometimes she woke with glowing hands, faint energy sparkling in her palms. Solara told her softly, "Do not fear, little star. This is your light." Adrian carried the heaviest weight. He heard whispers in the songs that others could not. They spoke of danger, of choices, and of a path that could change the future. He felt responsible, as if Solara had placed a crown of duty on his head. The children no longer cried at night. Instead, they sat together by the window, staring at the stars. They dreamed not of toys or games, but of journeys across the skies. Their hearts were no longer bound by the walls of the mansion. Solara guided them gently, never forcing, always encouraging. She taught them not only songs, but discipline, patience, and courage. Her lessons came in simple ways, through stories, through quiet talks, through moments of silence. But each moment shaped them into something stronger. One night, Adrian woke from a dream filled with fire and shadows. He ran to Solara, his voice urgent. "Something is coming, I saw it." Solara did not look surprised. Instead, she nodded slowly. "Yes, Adrian, you are beginning to hear what I hear, to see what I see," she said. The children's bond with her deepened. They were no longer just kids under her care. They were her students, her chosen. Every day, they grew less like children of a billionaire and more like children of the stars. Their laughter was brighter, their courage stronger, and their dreams larger than Earth itself. But their awakening did not go unnoticed. Beyond the mansion's walls, powerful eyes turned toward them. Some feared what the children were becoming. Others hungered to control it. Whispers spread across the city, across nations, and even farther beyond the skies. Inside the mansion, the children's journey had only begun. Solara knew the time was coming when their gifts would be tested. She sang to them each night, not just to comfort, but to prepare. Her voice carried the strength of galaxies, and within that strength, the children awakened more each day. The mansion that was once filled with sorrow now shone with light. But the awakening of the children was not only a blessing, it was also a call that the universe had already heard. And soon, the world outside would answer, bringing challenges no song could silence. The mansion no longer felt like the same place it once was. It had been a cage of sorrow, but now it glowed with life, laughter, and hidden power. Adrian, Leo, and Alara were no longer fragile children crying in the night. They had awakened to something greater, something waiting beyond Earth. Yet peace inside the mansion could not last forever. The failed attack had already revealed Solara's presence to the world. Governments, rival billionaires, and forces from beyond Earth all turned their eyes toward the family. Whispers grew into plans, and plans grew into threats. Solara knew the time was coming. Each night, she stood at the tall windows, singing quietly to the stars. Her voice was not only a lullaby, but also a beacon. She was calling, not to Earth but to the sky, to allies hidden among the stars. The children began to notice the change in her songs. They were no longer only soft and gentle, but full of strength. Adrian heard words inside them, words of warning, words of destiny. Leo felt the rhythm awaken courage in his heart. Alara saw visions brighter than ever, whole galaxies unfolding before her eyes. One night, the billionaire himself returned. He entered the mansion surrounded by guards, his face tired and sharp. He had heard of the attacks, the rumors, and the strange songs. When he saw Alara standing with his children, his voice grew cold. "What are you?" he demanded. Alara bowed her head slightly, her silver eyes calm. "I'm their guardian," she said. "I was sent to guide them, to prepare them." The billionaire laughed bitterly. "Prepare them? They are only children." Adrian stepped forward, his voice strong though he was still small. "No, Father, we are not just children anymore," he said. Leo added, "Her songs are inside us, they make us strong." Alara whispered, "She showed us the stars, and they're calling us." The billionaire froze, his heart shaken. For the first time, he saw not weakness, but fire in his children's eyes. Alara placed a hand gently on his arm, her voice steady. "You gave them riches, but they needed more than wealth. They needed purpose," she said. Before he could reply, alarms filled the mansion. Outside, strange ships appeared in the sky, black shapes moving against the stars. The guards shouted, the staff panicked, but Alara stood calm. Her silver glow spread as she lifted her hands. The children gathered around her, their fear replaced with courage. Adrian felt the meaning in her song, a command hidden in the melody. Leo hummed in harmony, the machines in the mansion powering down and then rising again, stronger. Alara raised her glowing hands, cymbals dancing in the air around her. Together, they joined Alara's voice. The mansion shook not with fear, but with music. The song rose into the sky, spreading beyond the city, beyond Earth. It was a message, a declaration, and a shield. The ships above trembled, their engines faltering. The attackers shouted in confusion as light burst across the sky. Alara's voice grew louder, but this time the children's voices carried with hers. 3 human children singing songs of the stars. The billionaire watched in stunned silence. His fortune, his empire, none of it could match the power he saw in his own children. Alara's words echoed inside him. "They are not only yours, they belong to the future, to the galaxy." The enemy ships broke apart, fleeing into the dark. The sky returned to peace, but the world below had changed forever. Alara lowered her hands, her glow fading softly. She turned to the children, pride shining in her eyes. "You are ready," she whispered. "The stars will call for you again. And when they do, you must answer." Adrian nodded, his young face serious. Leo grinned with courage. Alara smiled through glowing tears. They were no longer just the billionaire's children. That night, as they lay in their beds, Alara sang one final song. It was soft, full of love, but also full of promise. The windows glowed with starlight, and the children dreamed not of Earth, but of journeys waiting beyond. For peace had been found, but destiny was only beginning. And so, the story of the billionaire's children did not end in their mansion. It stretched beyond their home, beyond their city, beyond Earth itself. Alara had given them more than peace. She had given them a song that would guide them through the stars. The children who once cried alone at night now carried the voices of galaxies within their hearts.